This podcast contains strong language and discussions about relationships, sex, and love. It may not be suitable for younger listeners. This is the Can't Keep My Mouth Shut podcast, and I am Nick Selena. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Can't Keep My Mouth Shut. Today is a Valentine's special. And for this occasion, I have a very special guest with me. We are sitting today with Jacqueline Kee, who is the co-founder of two brands, homegrown in Singapore, Genvie and Hedonist.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me here today, babe.
So some of you actually might have met Jacqueline because I threw a single as fuck party not so long ago.
That was so fun.
Wasn't it?
That was so fun.
The headline sponsor was in fact Hedonist. So Jacqueline took over the pavilion area, created this gorgeous love nest, and all of my guests who came could come in and explore a wide variety of toys and just bedroom pleasure items that the Hedonist has in stock.
Yeah, so that to me that night was just unforgettable, like meeting all the different people, gorgeous people as well. And I think at the end of the night, I don't know, there were like pretty crazy things that were happening, you know, in terms of like the kind of talks and speeches that people were talking about at the end of the day, whether the first time they actually used a toy or not, it just got really wild.
Yeah. And like after a few drinks, people started actually venturing to play with the toys, right?
Exactly.
So at the beginning, when you're sober, if you're new to this whole world, it looks quite scary because you did bring some BDSM bondage items
I
over
did, and you did take some photos with our mask and whipping around, so... Yeah, that was really fun.
I got attached to the flogger.
You did, and you actually took it home. And we're like, where is it? And like,
because it was on my wrist, and I was like, la la la, just going around flogging everyone. That's what you get when you come to my parties. You pay for a ticket, and
you get a spank.
You.
You get a spank.
So this episode, my darling, the reason I've got you on my show is because I want Hedonist girls to talk, and the idea I want to explore is couples that play together stay together.
Exactly. That is something that I always preach about. I think sex and pleasure just should be a very normal conversation. And I think growing up as Asian Singaporean, it's always been kind of hush-hush. Nobody kind of talks about it. I was just having this conversation the other day with a customer that came by. And, you know, she's been married for a long time. And then she comes in looking for toys. And we were having this whole conversation about like, how do you even introduce toys into the relationship, right? Yeah. To spice things up, because her husband is just kind of like, oh, I don't really believe in toys, right? And then we had this whole topic about like how we grew up in an Asia context where it's very oppressed, and like, you know, you don't talk about sex with your family, your friends as much as well. And then suddenly when you get married, your parents are like, when are you going to have your first kid? You know, and just like, it's just such a gap.
Yeah, it's a huge jump.
Right? Exactly. So I'm so glad we're going to have this conversation and just unwrap everything right here. Yeah.
Unwrap everything.
Yes, unwrap everything.
I don't know why, just everything you say for me is sexual and dirty.
Put it in.
So I guess this brief overview then, or before we dive in on like why you personally decided to found these brands, and like where did you get your like confidence?
My mojo.
Yeah.
Oh, my mojo.
Because obviously you're a Singaporean as well, and you've broken free from this
the traditional type of like stereotype. Yes. All this while, when I was young, I've always been very inquisitive. As young as 12, at least when I think puberty hit, I was the kind of person in my group that was telling all these dirty jokes. And although I did not quite understand the concept of it, I was just like having a ball with it, right? It started from there, but then later on, as I got more and more curious about this whole kind of taboo, don't talk about sex kind of thing, like it just kind of like felt very alone, because a lot of friends, a lot of people kind of like tell you like, this is something you're asking too much of. And later on, when I got into different relationships, I started dating a lot of Singaporeans as well initially. And me, because I was always wanting to explore more, I always felt like guys, nothing wrong with them. It's just that the boys that were dating were telling me like, you're asking for too much. In other words, it could be like, are you like too much? Are you like addicted to sex or something like that? But I'm not, like I'm just being curious. I'm just exploring, right?
And open.
Yeah.
You're obviously, you're naturally an open person,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And because of that, it just kind of like stemmed down my personality for a while. And I just thought, okay, never mind. It's just a small thing. Nobody really talks about it. So it shouldn't be that serious, right? But then when it developed into my later stage of my life, like, although on the outside, I may seem very confident, I'm very open, like you said, which are these aspects. But deep down inside, there was this thing that I still carried a lot of shame and guilt and this missing piece.
Right.
And then fast forward into meeting my husband, which back then we were dating, right? We explored sex toys. Actually, he was the one who brought up that conversation first. And that kind of like changed my perspective because all along I was brought up in a society to think that like women are the one that serve men. And I had that mentality for a long time. And when he did that, the narrative just changed. And when I had my first orgasm with a toy on my own, with him just kind of like allowing that space, I was like, oh my God, like I always had that control inside me. I always had that power that I could do on my own, like it's not something I have to wait for a man to pleasure me in that sense. I know it sounds like, what, you went through this, like they cannot fathom it, but the fact is, I was not the most, I guess, confident in myself when it came to sex, even though I talk about it a lot.
But a lot of women, even now, have the exact same mentality. Like, sex toys are scary. Self-pleasure is scary.
Yes.
You have to only orgasm through sex with men, with your partner.
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why I got into what I do as well, to try and break that stigma and taboo, because it was like, I also was the same. The first orgasm I had was on my own with a vibrator.
Yeah.
And I remember afterwards being like, what?
I know, mind blown, right?
But this is what everyone is banging on about.
I
because
know.
before then, I was 21.
Yeah.
Before that, I was having sex. I had no idea. Like, it was like, oh, you have sex, the man comes, done.
Yes.
And only after, and it was only through a toy that I then was like, oh my God.
Yes.
And so
life-changing.
When people even now, like these are women in their 30s in Singapore, say to me, like, I want to own a toy. And I'm like, but you haven't yet? You got to mid-30?
Yep.
And it's all still very scary. And then I'm like, but then how do you come? Or something, because I can't through just sex with a guy.
Me too.
Has to have a toy. I'm a little, Major, I think I'm a little bit addicted. Because I'm like, you're going to take forever. The toy, 5 minutes, the vibrations.
If you know your body and you know what works for you, I mean, no judgment there. If what makes you happy makes you happy.
Exactly.
Go for it, right?
But I'm just in shock that lots of, I think lots of women are still scared to self-pleasure. I think there's a stigma still in a couple relationship, which is obviously what we want to explore today, that like, oh, if you introduce a vibrator or you introduce a toy, that means the sex is bad, or that deflects that his manhood doesn't work or something. It's all utter bullshit.
Yeah.
Women can enjoy sex as is, but sometimes we just can't come that way, or or the vibrator just helps you get over the edge, for instance, or any toy. And like, I want couples to actually be able to just have the conversation.
Yes.
Bring it into their bedroom.
Yes. And exactly on that point, because when it comes to orgasms, right, and female orgasms, it's not so straightforward as compared to men, because biologically, the reproductive organs, one is external, one's internal, right?
Right.
And that alone itself is a mystery sometimes for women themselves to find it, let alone now you have to give this guy an authority to find and navigate the space of where the G-spot is, and there's clitoral
They rarely
orgasms.
find it. Yeah. Disclosure, they rarely find it.
Right. So you need toys, essentially. And we always say that in my workshops, because I'm a sex educator as well, in-house sex educator, to help bring education into light, right? To bring this conversation out. And we always say 80% of women don't get off through just penetrative sex, right? You need a lot of clitoral stimulation. You need a lot of foreplay, because the difference between men and women, when it comes to sexual arousal, men are more visual, whereas women, they're visual as well, but a lot more goes on psychologically.
Right.
It goes on in the brain. You need a fantasy, a little bit more like they want to feel connected. That's the most important thing. They're more like emotional connection with people, right? So that alone, like you need all that stimulation in order for a woman to feel fully relaxed and then get that orgasmic bliss. Yeah. So the key thing is relaxation, and sometimes a toy essentially helps you to relax from downwards all the way through the full body.
So how do we get people to realize that toys aren't scary and they're not a replacement, but actually enhance your sexual experience as a couple?
Okay, that's a really good one, because we have so many couples come in and they ask this question all the time. So when it comes to introducing first time, couples with toys in the bedroom, you want to make sure that both parties are consenting in this and have a very positive mindset into it, because you don't want to cause a misunderstanding. For instance, whether it's guy buying for the girl, girl buying for the guy, right? If you just suddenly go as a gag gift and be like, here, I'm getting you this toy, what it could come across, even though you have good intentions, would be like, are you trying to say that I'm not good enough? So first have that kind of talk, but you don't have to even be like direct about it. It could be like insinuated in a way that it's, like foreplay. Like you just kind of go indirectly and be like, oh, I just read this article the other day, and they say that, toys enhance a relationship. What do you think? Do you think that that's something we could try together? Okay. I always like to have that as first part,
right? Saying
that introduction comes through, like you said, communication, right?
Okay, so that's always step one.
Step one.
Gotcha.
Like make sure that both parties are in it.
Yeah.
And then from there you get a sense, right? If they're a bit apprehensive or super defensive about it, then you can kind of, like I said, unwrap that conversation and be like, why do you think that way? And I always emphasize the first step is when you're building that conversation, it's also a partnership. Yeah. It's not like, oh, because I think this will make you feel good, or make me feel good, or I heard from my friend that made her feel good. No, it's like, how does this toy, when you bring it into the relationship, I think that it could be good for you so that we both enjoy it. Yeah. Like that kind of partnership will definitely change the whole perspective of why you're bringing this toy in, rather than it coming in as an inferior threat.
Because then, this is what I was thinking as well. Guys often feel emasculated if you bring in a vibrator, because it's like, well, that's what my dick's supposed to do, and now you vibrate.
And it can vibrate 10 different functions.
Yeah.
And
So here was my idea, because I was thinking to avoid any of that defensive thing. But I've had it before from previous boyfriends, so I get it. There are so many toys, especially on Hedonist website, that are just very small, handheld, just for clits, right?
Yes.
So what you can do is explain that you're not buying, and in like a penis-shaped vibrator.
Yep.
This is just a small outer edge vibration for your clit. That might be an easy in.
Yes.
Pun intended. hey, already early and I'm starting. Because then he knows his dick is still the main function.
Yes.
And then with external little miniature clit ones, the guy actually feels the vibrations as well, right?
Yes.
And they actually like it.
Yes.
Because I've before, and the guys were like, hold it there. Because
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you've got a man that is defensive, which we've all experienced, I think, or they feel that you're trying to out them from this, just explore the smaller, less scary, outer edge clit ones.
Yeah. And, they always say like, oh, size matters. But when it comes to a toy, like vibration, the speed, the functionalities in that, like that also matters a lot. And from what we said earlier on, 80% of the time, women don't just go through just penetrate to sex. You can educate your partner on that too and say that, hey, it's not you. It's also because I need to have a lot more stimulation to get there, right? And I want to finish off together with you. So that could be a conversation that you also educate them so that it can benefit the female part as well.
I mean, there's also beyond vibrators, there's the whole world of bondage, BDSM toys, and you've even stocked lingerie on your website as well.
Yes.
So I think most people by now know I'm into my bondage.
Yeah,
I talk
with
about
the
it.
flogger that you left behind, left with. Of course,
I talk about it a lot, but you know that's like that's obviously, you know, there's no emasculation there. You actually, the male can become the dominant, so to speak, right?
Yes.
And you can start off with, it's, you know, if you're a beginner in this area, you can start off with just, you know, some fluffy handcuffs or something, right?
Yes.
Or a blindfold,
Yep.
right? Or a soft tie that you can tie your hands with. And you can see if you guys in the bedroom, like, because it's not just getting yourself off. Imagine you're in a long-term relationship.
Yep.
Sex needs
spicing up.
It will. You know,
it needs enhancement.
Yeah, you're fucking the same person for the whole of your life.
Yeah.
Right? Put it bluntly. Well, I hope you are, because, you know, we don't abide by cheaters here. So you want to keep the sex alive.
Yes.
So it might be fun to start doing it around the house and the condo in places you haven't. It might be fun to start trying like sensory changes. Yeah. Ice cubes, blindfold, feathers. And you can start with the stuff and then get when you're comfortable. Because obviously if you come home with like, I don't know, fucking ties and whips and you haven't, like your partner's be like, are you okay?
Yeah, exactly. But sensory deprivation is always fun because it heightens all the other senses as well. So definitely doing something different outside of the bedroom can definitely do wonders in the bedroom.
Do you find as like the leading, like, I guess, sexuality and female wellness expert on the island, do lots of people come to you and you're still shocked at, like, I guess, how innocent they are is the word I'd use within this field?
All the time. But of course, I've had so many of these women and men come in now. It's almost become like, okay, now how can I help you understand that this is not the reality of things, you know? I'll give them my personal experiences.
Okay.
And that helps them feel that like, okay, this person's a real person who also kind of like goes through probably some of the things I'm going through, right? Like one example, introducing sex toys again into the relationship, right? So when it comes to using a vibrator, what I usually say to either the man or guy, I would say, you know, for me as a working professional, my life is always so busy. My husband himself as well, always so busy, right? He's an entrepreneur himself. He runs his own Mexican restaurants. So when we finally want to have sex, right, it's not always spontaneous. Let's face it, that's the reality, right? So schedule sex, how do we make it sexy? We always end up weaving that together. And then sex toys are things that actually enables me to help me feel relaxed in that moment and tune in to being present, that, okay, now it's something that like my body is ready. I know that I'm all warmed up. And setting all that pressure for a guy to just get you off. One, the guy's going to be like, oh my gosh, like I have to massage her again. I have to go through 30 minutes of foreplay before I actually have sex. Like they both are just going to end up resenting sex and pleasure altogether, right?
And then you don't do it as much because you haven't got the fucking time.
Exactly.
Like, it takes about 45 minutes for a guy to go down on me for me to get somewhere.
There we go.
And I can do it by myself in like 5 with toys.
Yes.
So rather than you both go, fucking hell, like, God, dinner's on. You know what I mean? Where, come, and then someone like, come on, Nix. And then I'm like, oh, I can't. And then you push back the orgasm because you're panicking. Or,
exactly. You're not in the right space and distractions and everything, right? So what I teach women as well is to be in charge and take charge of your own pleasure. So toys are also there to help both parties feel more relaxed in the sense that you're not pressuring the guy. And at the same time, you're also, you know, it's sexy having to see your partner kind of masturbate, mutual masturbation going on, right? A little bit of visuals there. And yeah, like at least she knows how to take that control of her pleasure, warm herself up, right? And then don't give in to the toy, then have sex. Right. Then both of you can have a great orgasm together. Yeah. Right? And especially if you're the female already has been using the toys on her own and she knows exactly, you know, which hand, which pressure, which, mode it is, right? Because sometimes a guy could buy the toy for the girl. But then the thing is like, if he's just kind of like tapping it and just kind of navigating it around like, just, I don't know, hot, cold, like you don't really know, right? But if the girl already knows it, it's okay to like hold on to the toy and just have her way with it. And then later on be like, okay, now I'm putting this toy aside. It's me and you bonding session here, right now.
Yeah, my sex has got better since I use my own toys because I now know what gets me off.
Yeah.
If I'm clueless, poor guy's already fucking clueless.
I know.
How it's going to be like a fumbling mess. Whereas I can now direct him, or I know what's going to get me there.
Yes.
I know what takes a while. And so you self-pleasuring even in a relationship enhances the sex in the relationship.
Exactly.
And I think that's a main point that like we say couples that play together stay together. You're not saying if you don't have sex toys you're going to split up.
Of course. So there's so many other ways to having sex, or at least keeping the spark alive in the relationship.
I just want to ask quickly, have you seen a shift in recent years of people being more open and exploring? Is there a change, or is it still quite a hush-hush topic?
I think that people who generally kind of come to our workshops, there are a range. They are more, there could be the range from the inquisitive, like, okay, like I'm one leg in, dipping my toes in. And then you have this other range where like women are super empowered and they're like, okay, I'm so sure of my sexuality. I would say that times are definitely changing and people are becoming more modern, right? You have a lot of media out there teaching people about sex, or shows, Netflix, you watch on YouTube. So I think that like progressively we are changing and evolving to become more open when it comes to sex and pleasure.
Yeah.
But there is definitely still a big portion of, I would say, Singaporeans that we're not tapping into yet, that still feels that this is a very scary thing.
Yeah.
And when we try to talk to these people, they still have that mentality that it's like, oh, it's okay, I have a partner, I have my husband, I have my boyfriend, and that kind of mentality. And it still takes time to get them to get to where we are. But I'm sure they will get there. Yeah.
And so with the people that are still in that, like, I'm not going to closed mind, I'm going to use the word innocent or a little bit like scared. And what would be like your one tip to try and get to this point? Like, is there a particular toy you'd recommend as a beginner? Like, what would be your go-to advice for those?
I would say before I even introduce toys, because in our business, we sell sex toys, but it's always like a conversation starter. What we always do is through education first. And so that's why, like, compared to most of the other retail stores in Singapore, we actually have that as our unique selling point through education. So we have these workshops. So I'll be like, you know what? If toys are not for you, don't worry. I understand how scary it might be in the beginning, right? So just come for one of these workshops, be surrounded by other like-minded individuals, and just keep an open mind, right? Because we have different workshops that ranges from topics of like pleasure 101, and it's for women only. So it's vulva anatomy, it's understanding different female orgasms and demystifying them, the taboos around it. And then we also have another workshop that's for couples, which is like exactly what we're talking about right here, spicing up your relationship. How do we get from good to great, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have other ones that are a little bit more kinky, which I'm sure that's what you're all about. We have blowjob, handjob workshops. That's all for female only, right? We have an intimacy coach that runs it as well together with us. We also have Intro to Kink, which is like, okay, if you want to explore your more kinkier side of things, how do you go about it? Come for the workshop and just keep an open mind and see how that goes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So in fact, your first step is come for a workshop, get the education.
Yeah.
From then on, you can actually then decide, you're like, actually, I don't want that toy that I originally thought I'd want.
Exactly.
Or you can go to every workshop, or you can work on your blowjob or oral.
I know, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I think that's a unique selling point for you guys, because you're right. It's not just about purchases and sales or the right toy or, let's buy, a whip and go to... It's actually the educational part is the first port of call.
Yeah, it's to relearn what you thought you knew and just changing it in a perspective that it's more inclusive, more modern, and just open and fun, something that's more relevant to your life right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I got to say, given that it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, this is the perfect time for you guys to go and explore some sex toys together. And you can go on the website and take a little look. What's the website, my love?
It's called Hedonist Tribe. So hedonisttribe.com. And have fun shopping.
Yes, please do head over to our Instagram. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'll post on Reels 2 of their latest toys that Jacqueline has brought into the studio today. So I'm going to post that for you guys to see. One of them is my new favorite. I'm going to steal it off her and take it home. So these are the types of things that are actually what I was talking about earlier. They're very small, go in your handbag. They're very discreet. Yes. So if you head over to our Instagrams, mine, it's at Nixalina. What's yours, Jacqueline?
It's Hedonist Tribe, just as it is.
Yeah, and that you'll be able to see. I'll tag them in my reel. And in the caption, I'll also include a discount code for everyone. So you can go and shop to your heart's content. Thank you so much for coming in the studio.
Thank you so much, babe, for having me here.
Such an inspiration. I hope Jacqueline's helped you guys feel perhaps even a little bit more empowered or inquisitive. If you want to go and have a chat to your partner, go for it now. Like Valentine's Day is the perfect time. To open these conversations.
I know.
To go and get your toy.
To whet your appetite.
So everything you say is sexy. I can't help it. She's turning me on.
You bring it out of me. We make a good team here.
We do. Hopefully we'll do more events together as well.
Yes.
We had a lot of people after they saw what we did was like, when's your next one?
I'm definitely inviting you for my next few ones. We have a shibari. We have private parties. Actually, the one that we're really excited to launch also, to talk a little bit more about in the future is our bachelorette parties, which is a private one that you could get if you are getting a hen's party planned out for your friend. But I'm looking, if anyone's here right now knows of any male strippers that might be interesting to my addition, please write in and DM me.
You heard it here first. She needs male strippers.
Yes.
Singapore, where are our male strippers?
Give me Magic Mike.
Yeah, and also me as well, please.
Yes.
Not for parties, I just want one.
Okay, sure. Don't we all want one?
And with that, I'm going to close this episode. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. You've been an absolute pleasure. You guys have got the website and our social media. And yes, please head over to get your discount code to use on anything on the website.
Yes.
And just shove it in the cart when you check out. Shove it in. Oh, stop.
Oh my God.
Okay,
You're on a roll. You're on a roll.
Shove it in the cart. Okay, I'm out. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Can't Keep My Mouth Shut podcast. Produced and hosted by me, Nixalina, and recorded in the Splice Cast Studios in Singapore. I'm available to listen to on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, and all major podcast listening apps. Do subscribe to enjoy a new episode every Monday evening. Please do give me a 5-star review. It helps other people also find my podcast. For more content and features to read, you can check out my website, nixalina.com. That's nixalina.com. I'm also on social media. Simply search at Nixalina, Nixalina, to find me. Don't be shy. Come say hi.